Hello, and welcome to part 4 of the two-player tennis game tutorial. In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to collect score for each player and how to end a game with a game over screen. So go ahead and load up your game if you saved your game as a file, or go ahead and log into your account and open up the project that we've been working on. Now that you have that open, let's head on over to the ball sprite. In order to collect score, what we are going to do is add two new sprites. One for the player with a purple racket, and one for the other player with the green racket. And this sprite is just going to be a rectangle that covers each side of the field. Now how we're going to collect score is when the ball touches one of those sprites, it will add a value of 1 to a variable called score left and score right, or score player 1, score player 2. And that's how we're going to collect the score. So to do this, let's head on over to choose a sprite and head into the paint option. From here, we're going to select the rectangle tool, and then we're going to change the fill to red. So I'm going to bring this all the way over. So we have 100% saturation and 100% brightness. And we'll put this over to red on color 100. Now I'm just going to create a rectangle here starting at the top and dragging it all the way down. And we want a very thin rectangle. There we go. And now we're going to center the sprite by centering each crosshair on each other. Then over here in the stage area, I'm going to bring it over to the other end. And I'm just going to squish it behind the racket right here. And you notice here it's a little bit too wide, so I'm just going to squish it down again and recenter that. So about the same width of the centering crosshair. And we'll just drag it over like that. And it needs to be a bit taller, so we'll just drag it up. And then we'll drag it down. Ooh, this handle's being a little sticky. There we go. And then we'll just move it over a little bit more. Right about there. Perfect. Now all we need to do is duplicate it for the other side. So we're just going to duplicate, and there we go. Now we should probably rename these sprites to make it a little bit easier instead of being sprite 1 and sprite 2. So I'm going to name this one left, and I'm going to name the other one right. So that way it's a little bit easier to locate when we code it to collect score for us. So let's just move this one over as well, right about there. We'll bring it forward just a bit so it's a little bit more even. There we go. Now we have both the scoring sprites ready to go. So let's head on back over to the code side. So we're going to add the code inside the ball sprite instead of adding any code inside these sprites. These sprites are just for the ball to interact with. So let's head on over to the ball sprite. And what we're going to do is underneath this one click forever, we're going to add some code to collect score. But first, before we do that, we need to make a variable for the purple racket and the green racket score. So we're going to go over to variables, and we're going to make a new variable. I'm going to make a variable called purple for the purple racket score, and then I'm going to make a variable called green for the green racket score. And we're going to leave this for all sprites. And what we're going to do now is we're going to grab two set blocks here, and we're going to set green to 0, and we're going to set purple to 0, and place this right underneath set speed. So that way, when the game starts, when we click the go button up here, our scores will reset. And then up here, we can move these around the stage area. So I'm going to move green over onto the green side, and move purple over to the purple side. Now that we have our variables to collect our scores, we need to program the ball to interact with the left and right sprite in order to add to those scores. Now to do that, we are going to use a forever loop. So let's head over to control and grab forever, and we're going to place that underneath the high block. Now our ball needs to make a decision whether or not it's touching the left or right sprite, and to do that we'll use two if blocks. Now we're just going to stack these on top of each other for right now. Now in order for it to make a decision depending on which one it's touching, it will need to use two touching blocks from sensing. So grab a touching block and duplicate that. Now one needs to be set to the right sprite, so we'll set this one to right, and one needs to be set to left. Now what we're going to do is place that right inside the forever loop. Now we need to increment each of the variables by 1 depending on whether or not the left or right sprite is touched. To do that, we're going to head on over to variables, and we're going to use the change by block. So we need 2 of these, one for right and one for left. We're just going to place those into the if blocks. And if it starts running like this and the ball disappears, don't worry about it. Just hit the stop sign. So if we are touching the right sprite, which is over here, let's just double check by clicking on it, double clicking on it. Yep, so that's the right one. So for the right sprite, if the ball is touching it, we need to increment the purple score by 1. So we're going to switch this to purple. And we'll say change by 1. And then we'll do the same thing for the left, which will need to increment the green variable by 1. Now what's going to happen is we want to reset the game. So the ball starts in the middle here, and the ran function activates again to send the ball in a random direction. To do that, we are just going to simply send the message start. So that way when this receives start, it'll reset the ball to the center and change its direction it will be going in. So let's head on over to events, and we are going to get broadcast start. And we're going to place one in each of the if blocks. So duplicate that, place that at the bottom of the change blocks, and make sure you do this or it won't increment because it'll just start and this will happen. And I'll completely skip over this. And let's give it a try. So if the ball scores, yep, and it increments by 1. Let's make sure it does that for purple too. Oh, let's get purple. There we go. Oh my, green is quite a tough computer player. Alright, there we go. So it did increment on purple. Excellent. So now we're going to stop the game there, and we're going to continue on to the game over screen. Now we are going to finish up this game by creating a game over screen. And to do that, we are going to need another sprite. Now this sprite's going to have 2 costumes, one to represent the purple racket and one to represent the green racket. So that way we know who won the game. So let's head on over to choose a sprite and select the paint option. Next, we want to change the fill to the color of the racket we're going to start with. So I'm going to start with the purple racket. And it looks like that one is a cooler purple. So somewhere's around there. It doesn't have to be exact color, just close enough. That's good. Then we're going to select the text tool, and we're going to come over here, and we're going to type game over, and we're press enter. Purple wins. Now we're going to change the font here to make it more retro game style. So we're going to click down on this arrow, and we're going to select pixel. There we go. Now we can see it over here in this screen. So let's center this up first. Now it's kind of small, so we want to make it a little bit bigger. So we're going to grab this handle here and just drag it till it touches the side of the screen there, or the area where we work, the bitmap here. And we're going to drag this to the centering again, and that looks better. Now that we have that, all we have to do is duplicate this costume. So we are going to duplicate it, and instead we are going to change it to green. So we'll change this to green, and then we'll just change the text over here. So you just double click to where you want to change the text, and we're just going to delete purple and type green. And there we go. Now we have a costume for when green wins. Alright, let's head on over, and we're going to code this to end the game. So let's select the code tab. And then over here, let's just make sure it's centered in the stage area. It's centered in the sprite sheet, but let's make sure it centers in the stage area. So we're just going to type 0, and then we're going to type 0 here. And that'll bring it right to the center of the screen. So right now it's showing. So if we play the game by clicking the green flag here, you'll notice that it stays on the screen, and we don't want that. We want it to hide. So what we're going to do is start with a when clicked, and then we are going to go to looks and select hide. Next, we're going to grab a forever loop. So we want this to run forever until we reach a certain score. Now that we have this set up, what we need to do is decide on a score for the players to achieve in order to win the game. I'm going to decide on the number 3, but you can choose any number you like as long as it's greater than 0. Now that we have that in mind, what we need to do is grab 2 if blocks. One for the purple player and one for the green player, and we're going to stack these on top of each other. Now we need to get the operator equal to, and we need to set this to 3, because when it equals 3, we need to stop the game and show the game over screen. So I'm going to set this to 3, and then I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to place one in each of the if blocks. Next, we are going to go over to variables, and we're going to grab the variable green and the variable purple. And we're going to place that in one of each of the if blocks. Now we need to show the game over screen depending on whether the green or the purple player scored 3 points first. To do that, we're going to go into looks, and we are going to select switch costume. So let's actually change these names so it makes the costumes a little bit easier to see. So we can go into costumes, and we're going to name this one green, and we're going to name this one purple. And then we are going to rename this sprite to Game Over. That way it's a little easier to find when we're coding. Let's head back to the code, and we're going to say switch costume to green and then switch costume to purple. So if purple wins, we'll switch to purple, and if green wins, we'll switch to green. Then we'll show the costume, and then we will end the game. So if we go into control, we can grab the stop. So we're going to say stop all, and we can do that for each, and that will basically stop the game as if we hit the stop button over here. Now let's place these inside the forever loop and give the game a try. So if I hit the green button here to go, you'll notice that the game over screen hides. Now we're just going to let the ball bounce and score 3 for purple. Alright, now it says game over, purple wins. Alright, let's do one final test before we end this video. So I'm going to place this game into full screen by clicking the full screen control button. And then click the green flag, and let's see how this game plays. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright. Oh my, that was a great move by green there. And there goes purple, excellent. Oh, gotta remember which keys I'm pressing. Uh-oh, this is a tight match. Alright, next point wins. Who's it going to be? Oh, excellent. And it says game over, purple wins. But let's just double check to make sure that it says game over, green wins as well. So we'll try this one more time. So there we go, green will score there, and then there, and then there. Excellent. Alright, so the game over, green wins. That works as well. Awesome. Alright, so I want to thank you for watching this video series, and I'll catch you in the next one.